In a quiet corner of a small animal shelter, there lived a dog named Bonnie. She'd always been by the side of her brother, Clyde, her constant, her comfort, her whole world. Together they'd weathered the uncertainty of life behind kennel walls, finding warmth in each other's presence, even on the coldest, hardest days. But one morning, everything changed. Clyde was adopted. The volunteers cheered. He'd found his forever home. But for Bonnie, it felt like the ground had vanished beneath her paws. From that moment on, the shelter grew quieter, emptier, lonelier. She barely ate. She stopped playing. Most days, she sat by the gate, ears perked, eyes fixed on the door, waiting for a brother who wasn't coming back. Jennifer, a longtime shelter volunteer, watched Bonnie with a heavy heart. She knew this wasn't just sadness, it was grief. And grief needed more than food and water. It needed hope. So Jennifer did something simple but powerful. She shared Bonnie's story online. She wrote about the unbreakable bond between two siblings, about the gentle way Bonnie used to nuzzle Clyde when he was scared, and how, since he'd left, she'd barely lifted her head. She deserves a second chance, Jennifer wrote. Not just a home, but a heart that will love her for who she is. The post spread faster than anyone expected, shared by thousands, liked by strangers who'd never met her, but already ached for her. Among the comments, one message stood out. A woman named Braden had lost her own beloved dog just months before. When she saw Bonnie's story, something clicked. She felt it deep in her chest, not just sympathy, but connection. She wrote back immediately, "I'd like to meet her." When Braden arrived at the shelter, Bonnie was hesitant. Hope had grown too dangerous, but Braden didn't rush. She knelt slowly, spoke softly, and held out her hand, without expectation. And then, after weeks of silence, Bonnie did something miraculous. She lifted her tail just once and took a step forward. Braden adopted her that day, and with a new name, Ember, for the quiet spark that still glowed beneath the ashes of her heart, Bonnie began to heal. At home, she met Braden's other dog, Tally. At first, they circled each other with cautious curiosity. But soon they were racing through the yard, napping in sunbeams, and sharing toys like old friends. Ember's eyes grew brighter. Her steps grew lighter. Joy, once forgotten, began to return. But the story wasn't finished. The family who'd adopted Clyde had also seen Ember's post. Touched by the reunion they never knew was possible, they reached out to Braden with a hopeful question. What if the siblings could see each other again? They arranged a meeting in a sunlit park. The moment Ember and Clyde saw each other, time seemed to vanish. They froze, then exploded into motion, barking, leaping, tumbling over each other in pure, unrestrained joy. They hadn't forgotten. They'd never stopped loving. From that day on, the two families made a promise. No matter how far apart they lived, Ember and Clyde would always be part of each other's lives. Because some bonds, forged in shelter kennels, tested by loss, and renewed by love, are never truly broken. And so, from loneliness to family, from waiting to belonging, Ember's story became a quiet reminder. Even the deepest heartbreak can lead to a new beginning, if someone is willing to look, to listen, and to love.